they were just like monsters, you know, they were giants of men, and we used to go up and play football and like watch them like train, you know, and what they used to do used to look just, it was the impossible, like.
Massive time for the club. 2 years before that they won a junior championship, then they stepped up and won the intermediate.
They're 2 points behind, the ball is snapped to Colin Maguire. Maguire now for Balladera, taking the shot. There's now one between them.
It's the biggest achievement the club had so far since lucky enough I was part of that team, so it was a successful year for the club.
The biggest amount I can remember from that day of that intermediate final is when I was a mascot that day. 2 of my first cousins was on the team playing, I think, midfield and full back, and I can remember my first cousin bringing me around the parade and his holding his hand and then just running off the pitch and just the celebrations after then.
It's all over in Parkson McDermott, and on a scoreline of 2-9 to 9 points, Balladera have clinched the Leitrim 1996 Intermediate Football Champions.
Yeah, I started off first with the junior team, with Desi Creamer and Joe McMorrow and some of these guys. Like, that team trained with the senior team, so the numbers were like massive. You know, I don't know what it was, maybe a training, maybe it was like 30 players.
From what I can remember, there was more numbers there and a good solid team to play with, but just when the recession kicked in my opinion, the whole lot just, when in a space, if you could say 2 years, we could have lost up to 10 players easily.
When I emigrated, everybody was still at home at that point. And I'd been managing a barber shop in Edinburgh, and I kind of felt like you were letting the side down a bit, you know, or you could do something maybe that would help. So it was very difficult to be away and not be playing. It doesn't help as well when your dad is ringing you like every single Saturday, giving you the updates and telling you who's playing, where you should be playing or you were supposed to be playing, and how the games are going, and you know, you spend most of the time on the phone talking about that, like, you know, and before you know it, you know, he has to go because you've been on the phone for 45 minutes or whatever, like.
I spent 1 year in Australia. As I said, my brother was out there as well. He had gone a few weeks before me. He also played for Balladera. I think everyone that immigrates, they don't go out with the intention of being there long term. It's just there wasn't still much work, and we're still in the major recession. So
the reason I want to go to America is, number one, is just the experience, and number two is from everyone, all my close friends has got immigrated down to the past few years. They always ring back, you know, being in good contact with most of them, and I just really want to go out and see what all the shout is all about.
I came back because I think growing up, it took me a while to mature mentally. And I messed around a lot and, you know, gave commitment and then didn't keep commitments and stuff. And Inda rang me, and Inda was obviously taking the captaincy. And he asked, you know, he kind of knew, I think, early on that he was going to go to America at the end of the year when everything was over. So when he rang me and asked me to, he said, you know, I want to spend my last year, you know, with you on the team, with you playing, then I kind of knew, like, you know, it was now or never to give a full commitment, you know, so.
Well, I'd heard that a number of players had left and gone to the likes of Australia and America and that there, and even some people to England and that. And there's no doubt about it, if you go down there and it's a very cold night and it's in the middle of February and there's 6 or 7 people there, even though you know, well, maybe the boys are out in Dublin doing a bit or in Galway or wherever they are, you still feel that, you know, wouldn't it be great if we had another 10 bodies here to make it, you know, to make it competitive.
Training with low numbers is very frustrating, to be honest with you. Going down and training with 10 lads or less, 8 maybe most evenings. It's very hard to get motivated, very hard to do the right drills. It's difficult.
I distinctly remember texting Inda several times during the week asking him, how many numbers were there, and you'd always get the same thing. There was 8, and sometimes if there was 10 or 12, it was like there was 30.
Maybe 5, maybe up to 10, could be more at the weekend, players around. But during the week, you kind of work at what you have, because like most neighbouring clubs are probably in the same boat as us, so you kind of just put up with what you have and make the best use of it.
I'm working with a company, they're Response Engineering. The Response are based in Charleville, which is North Cork, but even North Cork from here, it's 3.5 to 4 hours usually. I suppose I'd come straight home. We'd have training on a Friday night, so you'd be home and you'd be just straight. You wouldn't have time to come home. You'd have your gear with you, and it'd be out of the car and into the dressing room.
Travelling home for matches and training is interesting, because if you've been putting in the effort and you're kind of looking forward to getting home to see the lads, and more so in a really competitive way, you want to see where they are.
Yeah, it's very hard to do anything on your own, and especially then, if you have a game on a Sunday maybe and the results didn't go the right way, and you're trying to lift yourself Tuesday and then to go out and train.
Your interest is always there because you spent all of your childhood there, and all the lads were there. And there was just summers lost in that field with people who are your best friends and stuff. So to see them go is one thing, but to see that still there is a very positive thing.
It takes the football to bring everyone together, and summer's always a great buzz around when you're playing and after matches, and it's good to meet up with everyone. And as you said, the social side of it is a big thing as well. Win or lose, we'd always go out, and there's more to life than football at the end of the day too. And
so it's kind of difficult. I know, but it has to have a social end. That's what it's about. It's part of the fabric of the parish. The biggest lift probably since the downturn in the economy was probably the night that we beat Mohill to top the group. To actually top the group in the championship and get into the sort of the business end of it, like the quarter final, I think that meant a lot to the people.
Yeah, 2014 was a very, I suppose, successful year when you're talking about the championship. Got out of our group, got to the quarter final, we won that game, a tough battle against Estlin, and we got to the semi-final of the championship, and possibly could have gone further.
Best memory for playing for the club, I don't know, this year could have racked it up for me, to be honest, on a personal level, being captain of the club at 24 and reaching a semi-final. So this year I think really was best memory with Banaghlera.
Last year, in the middle of the championship run, you couldn't have asked for any more from them. They put everything in that they had, and people's working, and it's an amateur sport, and you can't. I wouldn't be too critical.
I think we could keep the team together. Personally, we're such a small parish, with low numbers. I think every man in Banaghlera knows each other inside out. We were brought up together, schooled together, even socialised together, and I think there's kind of a close bond on the team, and that's why every man just goes out to play for each other on the day, and that's it.
To me, it's about the band of guys who are together. I look upon it as like a unit in an army, and anything outside that unit doesn't matter. So for me, it was just the guys along with me, either side of me. That was the most important thing, keeping that together, so.
The most I'll miss probably is playing football with the lads, the socialising after. We really do know how to enjoy ourselves, and that's probably going to be a bit of farming too. I was always brought up with a bit of farming, and I miss the likes of that, yeah.
But you have to understand as well, a lot of these guys have never lived away from home before, and went to college but lived at home, and you can't spend your life cocooned you know, within the walls of the small village or wherever you live. You have to get out and, you know, see the world. And as I've said to them all when they were going, you know, it's not going anywhere, please God, and it'll be there when they come back, you know, so.
Oh yeah, if anyone asks you where you're from, you always say, you know, Ballinadlera, and it's where you grew up and where you'll always call home. I suppose no matter where you go, you don't want to lose your own identity, so you'd always say that Ballinadlera is your home.
To be honest with you, Ballinadlera is at my heart, and don't want to have another jersey on me.